Hey everybody, today we're going to be taking a casual look at Tripped for the 3DO. Now the 3DO was kind of lacking in puzzle games. It didn't have a ton of them. It had Bust-A-Move, it had Tripped, it might have had another one or two. It wasn't overflowing with puzzle games. So overall, in terms of the 3DO's entire library, Tripped is actually, in my opinion, a welcome addition to anyone's collection, or probably will be a welcomed addition to anyone's collection. For one, it plays a lot like Puyo-Puyo. It definitely gets its influences from Puyo-Puyo, as you can tell, or you will be able to tell. I'm getting into the game right now. But it also has its own quirks that really make it stand apart from Puyo-Puyo. For one, this is a game developed by Warp, and Warp is, or they were, a company that just thrived on making really weird games, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think every system needs a little bit of quirkiness, and Warp easily delivered that for the 3DO. And the thing is, like, they didn't just make quirky games, they made good games. The games were fun. Like Tripped is a puzzle game much like Puyo-Puyo, and it's a lot of fun. It's a great little puzzle game, and I definitely recommend picking it up if you're a fan of puzzle games. But they added these traits that just made their games really stand out. I mean, they were technically polished. Like, this game runs really smooth. A lot of times 3DO titles just have this overall choppy nature as they run and as they play. Tripped doesn't have that. Everything looks great, it looks sharp, everything runs smoothly whenever you destroy the pieces. You know, their explosion, just, there's no frame skipping or anything like that. It's nice. And but it's just, they were not Tripped, but Warp was just out of this world in terms of just the quirky natures in some of those games. All you have to do is do a Google search for Warp and type in Warp 3DO or something like that, and look for one of their titles. Look for Flopon the Space Mutant, which is Tripped, but it's the Japanese version, or look for Short Warp, or look for Flopon World, I believe is what it's called. That was like a mini game collection for the 3DO that's actually kind of difficult to find, and the cover of that has like half naked men and stuff like that on it. It's weird. Like, the stuff they put out is just quirky, but some of it just makes you laugh. It's that kind of quirky. And from what I understand, they were basically just young guys at the time just doing whatever they pleased. And they actually, I believe, Warp actually made games for the 3DO instead of other platforms because licensing fees were so cheap on the 3DO. And so they were able to basically take a weird idea and run with it. And that's definitely what they did to a degree in this game. So you got like a Puyo-Puyo style game here, as you can tell, but there's actually a couple more quirks to it that you might not be aware of. If you notice in the bottom left hand corner of the screen, I actually managed to form this sort of weird looking square. And to do that, you combine 4 of the same colored pieces together in a square fashion, and then you'll create a big mega block like that. I'll just call it that. I don't know its actual name. Now what happens is, if you clear a chain of that same color now, the big mega block will disappear. So here I'm going to clear a green chain, and boom, he disappears just like that. So one of the ways to build up massive points in this game is to obviously not just chain like in any other puzzle game, but to build these really big sort of like mega blocks like that. I'll just keep calling them mega blocks. So that's really the goal of this game, and it really gives it a quality that's it really differentiates itself from games like Puyo-Puyo in that I don't know, just with that gameplay aspect, it differentiates itself from games like Puyo-Puyo. This game is, like I said, it's really quirky. Like, you got that astronaut in the bottom left hand corner of the screen. Why is there an astronaut there? I mean, what is, you got this little alien in the bottom right hand corner of the screen, but you got this astronaut on the right. Like, what? Why is that there? But I don't care. It's funny. And now I'm gonna go ahead and game over, and when you game over, this dude pops up and an axe comes flying into his head. Boom. Just like, it's like, what the it's hilarious. I'm gonna go ahead and exit out and go back to the main menu. And to drive up the quirky level even further is you've got Tripped Dance, or Trip Dance, however you want to call it. And what this is just some really weird stuff. I think you can switch the screens, you can trigger like drum sounds and things like that. I'm not actually listening to headphones right now, so I don't know what I'm triggering, but I know you've got like kicks and snares and like that. You know, it's crazy. So let me go ahead and exit back out. It also has a 2-player versus mode though, and it also has a 2-player versus mode against the CPU. This game is actually best, in my opinion, in 2-player versus mode. I like the single-player campaign, but the problem is that the game is too easy on the single-player just survival mode. It's too easy. So I do recommend having a friend around if you want to play this game. But you know, the single-player campaign is still enjoyable if you're just kind of bored for one afternoon. Regardless, I think this game is still great to have in the collection. It's a game unlike a lot of other 3DO games. I mean, you've got games like Bust-A-Move, which was an okay port in its own right. The 3DO version of Bust-A-Move is far from the best version of Bust-A-Move available. You know, it can't match the arcade version. It's still a fun game, still solid for what it is, but not perfect. Tripped actually has far more polish and runs far better than the 3DO port of Bust-A-Move does, surprisingly, even though there's probably more going on in this game than there is in Bust-A-Move. But it's one I still recommend having in the collection. Tripped anyways. Well, Bust-A-Move too. Bust-A-Move's a great game on 3DO still. But Tripped is one I think is worth having in the collection. It's a fun, quirky game, and if you have a friend around, it makes for a pretty solid multiplayer game, just like Puyo-Puyo. Puyo-Puyo is a great multiplayer game, so is Tripped. So, anyways, guys, I'm going to go ahead and just wrap it up with that. There's not a whole lot else to talk about. I have actually done a video on this game in the past, but what I'm actually trying to do is sort of get rid of my old videos where I was pointing the camera at the TV, and slowly but surely I'll be replacing them with sort of newer versions, and this is sort of a newer version of a video I actually did in the past. So, but for those curious, this game is not very expensive. It's probably... I like to say it's probably one of the cheaper titles on the 3DO. I think you can probably get a complete in-box copy, and I'm talking long box, not just the Joe case, for maybe $12, something like that. And I think it's worth that price. Definitely, I think it's worth it. I enjoy the game. I'm glad I have it in my collection. Skulls and Angels, that's hilarious. It's definitely worth having in the collection. It's polished, it runs nice, it's fun, it's quirky. Yeah. To state one more thing, though, I actually wanted to point out, which I did not point out in my last video of this game, because I didn't know about it actually, is that there's a compilation of minigames called Short Warp, and it's by Warp for the 3DO, obviously, and it has a bunch of minigames on it. And it actually has an alteration of Tripped, and I think it's actually called Flopon the Space Mutant 2, which would technically be Tripped Part 2. So if that's the full-on sequel to this game, it's on that disc, and check it out if you can find it. It's a pretty rare game. Definitely one I'd like to track down in the future. If I ever do, I will definitely do a video on that. But yeah, this game basically had a little follow-up, even if it's just some sort of mini-game. I don't know if it's just versus or if it's just like this game, and it has the full single-player option too. But yeah, it's on Short Warp. So if I ever get that, I'll definitely be showing that down the road, guys. So anyways, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. I want to say thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, as always, and you know, I'll be back with some new content sometime soon. So until next time, guys, take care, and well, yeah, I'll see you next time.